Welcome back, everyone. We have an update from Alpha Tau Medical Inc., which trades on the NASDAQ under the symbol DRTS and is an Israeli medical device company that focuses on research, development, and potential commercialization of the Alpha DART for the treatment of solid tumors. Please welcome its CFO, Raphi Levy. Nice to see you, Raphi.
Nice to see you, Anna. Thank you very much for having me. It's good to be back. So I appreciate everyone's attention here. Happy to go through some updates on our side as we talk about all the progress we're making at Alpha Tau. Maybe I'll just quickly remind you, for those who haven't been here in the past, so we are a company who's developed local alpha radiation, the only ones who have figured out how to use alpha radiation directly in destroying solid tumors. It's an incredibly potent, incredibly tightly controlled dose of radiation, one which we have been developing now for a couple of years as a platform, either for use on its own or for use in combination with other cancer treatments. Now, this is a personalized treatment that's given to patients that is personalized for them specifically, for the tumor type that they have, for the size of the tumor. The treatment is injected directly into the tumor and, again, generates this burst of alpha radiation. It's incredibly more efficient, requires lower doses. It shows fewer side effects than other forms of radiation, and has demonstrated fantastic data so far in its ability really to treat basically any kind of solid tumor. So we've got some exciting data that's come out this year and will continue to come out this year, next year as well, and looking to get our first FDA approval in 2025. Just to remind you quickly what we do and how the product works, maybe Ryan, we can roll this video to give people a sense for the technology itself as a quick reminder.
And so as you can see, what we're going to do is inject this source into the tumor and leave it there, coated with this radium. And while the radium is unable to leave the source, once it breaks down those daughter atoms, themselves alpha-emitting radioisotopes, they're going to recoil off of the source into the tumor. And they're going to continue to move deeper and deeper into the tumor, propelled by a mix of diffusion and convection, and also recoil from firing off these heavy alpha particles, and what's left flies in the opposite direction. And so we're not getting the alpha particles to move any farther, we're actually releasing them deeper and deeper into the tumor.
So again, we're injecting these sources into the tumor, we're leaving them there to release these alpha particle emitters, and they're moving deeper and deeper into the tumor and killing these tumors as they go. And so we're getting a much more useful range of these alpha radiation particles in the tumor in a way which we think can be relevant for basically every solid tumor. I wanted to quickly touch on two updates since we met a couple of weeks ago that I thought would be interesting. The first one was that we announced an important member of our new member of our scientific advisory board as we continue to expand our awareness and our penetration into the U.S. market, into the clinicians, and to make sure that they are familiar with the product. So we've been adding, important new leaders into our work, people with whom we consult or with whom we can debate how we continue to roll this out into the U.S. So notably, we announced a couple of weeks ago that we added Dr. Stephen Hahn to our scientific advisory board. So Dr. Hahn used to be the commissioner of the FDA. He also is a radiation oncologist by training, obviously very relevant to what we do. And among other things, used to be the chief medical officer of MD Anderson Cancer Center in Houston, obviously a fantastic center. So he brings a very, very broad oncology view across tumor types, across indications, across different treatment types, and also brings, of course, a very deep regulatory understanding of the environment in which we're working as a former commissioner of the FDA. And so we were very excited to have him join us now alongside some other leading experts from the US, from Israel, and around the world, to have him join that board as well. The other part I wanted to talk about was our operations, and I thought maybe I would dig into this for a second because we made an announcement there recently about the operational side as well. And I think this is an important point to understand, given that it is an important element of any radiotherapy product. In our case, fortunately, though, it is quite a bit easier than many of our other radiotherapy competitors who are struggling with this area for a few reasons, as we'll discuss. So because our product is radioactive, it needs to be used within a certain period of time. It is decaying from the time it leaves our factory and heads to the hospital in that personalized kit for treating a particular patient. Now, we can time how much radioactivity we put on the product in order to allow for the decay during shipment. So we think about the fact that every 3.7 days it will decline by half. If, for example, we wanted to arrive in the hospital with a certain level of radioactivity, and it will take 4 days to get there. So as you see on the right side of the page here, we will double charge it. We will put on double the amount of activity that we want it to have during treatment, and that will allow it to decay by half over its half-life, right? That's the meaning of the half-life, and will arrive in the hospital ready for use. So this is fairly simple math. The computer does this automatically. It tells us when to start charging these sources, when to take them out, when to ship them. And so we can ensure that we get these sources to the hospital with the desired amount of radioactivity. Now, it is quite a bit easier for us and for others because we're using such low levels of radioactivity, because the alpha particles are so much more efficient, and because the treatment's range is so tightly controlled, we don't see massive amounts of damage to healthy tissues and surrounding areas as one normally sees with radiotherapy. Instead, we see a very tightly controlled dose, and we can use a much lower level of radiation. We are generally dosing hundreds or thousands of times less radioactivity than what patients are generally receiving in other forms of radiotherapy. And so it actually has an important logistical element to it too, because it allows us to ship these without all of the tremendous overhead and complexity of shipping traditional radioactive packages in special containers, in special trucks with licenses, etc. In our case, this can go in a regular cardboard box on DHL or FedEx or the Postal Service, same way you might buy a smoke detector in the mail, even though it has a bit of radioactivity in it. Well, but again, the levels are so low that it falls outside the rules for radioactive handling. Same reason here is the reason that we also don't require the same radioactive safety protections in the hospital as other radiotherapy treatments require, because again, we're dosing such incredibly low levels, and the alpha radiation can't even travel very far through the air, and so there's really minimal risk to the clinicians involved in the treatment. But one of the things we have been focused on has been on building out a network of manufacturing facilities around the world to ensure that we're always relatively close to our patients. While we can overcharge to allow for the time during shipment, the decay during the shipment, it is preferable if we can prepare our treatment relatively close to the hospital where it's being delivered, so that it's maybe a day or half a day flight away to the ultimate treatment center. And so, as we discussed in the past, we are looking to build multiple facilities around the world. We already have one in Lawrence, Massachusetts, just north of Boston, one at our headquarters in Jerusalem, and are planning one in Japan as well. As we look to submit in the next few weeks for approval there, we want to start designing the facility that will ultimately support our commercialization in Japan. We've announced more recently that we've opened our sites, set our sights on 2 additional facilities. One of them in Jerusalem, near our headquarters, will become our new headquarters. We've received a grant of heavily discounted land in an attractive industrial park where we can look to build a large-scale manufacturing facility to take us into commercialization. The other one we just announced a couple days ago in Hudson, New Hampshire, we are looking to open a second U.S. manufacturing facility site, not very far from our first one, but offering us not only additional space and the ability to expand, but also redundancy in case of a problem at one of the plants. So I wanted to touch those quickly, just to remind you, we are a public company now for about 1.5 years. We have, at our last quarterly readout, we had over $90 million in cash. If you look at our financial statements, we've been pretty consistently burning $4, $5, maybe $6 million a quarter. So we have multiple years of runway. We are well financed and continuing to execute, and we should see a meaningful number of milestones coming up in the next few months. Some of these we've hit already. We did initiate feasibility in pancreatic cancer in Israel. We are looking to read out some interim safety data from our Canadian pancreatic cancer trial in the next few weeks, as well as submitting in Japan for approval, having finished our pivotal study there in head and neck cancer. Look for completion of our U.S. pivotal study for U.S. approval, completing recruitment around the middle of next year, and also looking to get that PMDA approval sometime in the middle of next year as well. So with that, I'll pause. I'll thank you for your time, and I'm happy to take any questions.
Thank you, Raphi. Yes, we have some questions for you. First of all, thank you for giving us more clarity about the supply chain. Can you talk about what radioisotopes are you using, and do you face similar supply challenges as others in the space?
Yeah, it's a good question. That is a major issue for some of the radioactive therapies, mostly those who are using isotopes like actinium or lutetium, which have been hampered by short supply. Because of the nature of our product, which specifically relies on multiple alpha emitters moving deeper and deeper into the tumor, So our product uses radium-224. We generate it from thorium-228, which is basically an unwanted byproduct of a number of different radioactive reactions that come out of a reactor. We don't have a reactor. We buy the thorium from a number of different sources, including the U.S. Department of Energy in Oak Ridge, Tennessee, as well as Eckert & Ziegler, a large German public nuclear medicine company. So we have ample supply of the thorium that we need, and we don't see the same restrictions that others have faced, quite notably.
Thank you for that. And how should we think about the use case for this in the clinic? Is this technology intended primarily for more earlier stage cancers, or can it be used with metastatic cancers as well?
From our perspective, it's relevant to all of them. So this is fundamentally a local therapy. Like surgery or radiation, it's intended for use wherever clinician says, I want to treat that tumor over there that I see on imaging. So it could be in an earlier stage where there's just one localized tumor. It could be in a later stage, either on its own, maybe for palliative care, for pain relief, et cetera, or in combination with a systemic therapy, perhaps. Again, it's up to the clinician, of course, to the labeling of the product to determine how that gets used. But from our perspective, just in the same way a clinician might perform surgery on a metastatic patient or provide some sort of local radiation on a metastatic patient, we would think this product would be very relevant there as well.
And Raphi, what else can we look forward to for the rest of 2023?
Yeah, so I think the main items to look forward to are going to be that pancreatic cancer initiation, interim safety readout, which will come out in the next few weeks. The submission in Japan for approval is a big milestone, of course, and we'll see some other trials coming online as well. We're working to get started on treating our first liver patient, our first lung cancer patient, so we should see some of those milestones coming out over the next few weeks or early in 2024.
And can you tell us a little bit more about the systemic immune effect you've seen in using the Alpha DaRT?
Sure. I mean, that's a whole different topic, but in short, not only are we seeing that the tumor is destroyed or being treated by this treatment when it's injected into the tumor, but we've also seen quite a bit of evidence that when we treat one tumor, we help the immune system recognize this tumor and find it elsewhere in the body. So we see that manifest, for example, in mice where we will treat them for one cancer and they will become immune to that cancer. We see it where we actually activate the immune system. We can see proliferation of immune cells in these mice. We can see that we're activating checkpoint inhibitors, where mice that are not responding to checkpoint inhibitors will respond in the presence of our treatment. And I think most excitingly, we've seen this in a number of patients where we treat one tumor and then a different tumor or multiple tumors farther away in the body will begin to disappear as well. And so we do have a trial running now with Keytruda, pembrolizumab, a checkpoint inhibitor, where we're looking to see if we treat one tumor locally and they get systemic Keytruda on the background, can we see that treating that one tumor is increasing the overall systemic response rate across the body?
And David Newton wants to know, have there been recurrence of the tumors after treatment?
So we did publish some long-term data a couple of weeks ago. It's very important. We've seen very good durability of the data. So the data we published a couple of weeks ago looked at 81 lesions from 4 different trials we had run across the world, followed up with those patients anywhere from a couple of months out to 4+ years. We saw the 2-year local recurrence-free survival of 77%, right? Where those patients stayed cancer-free in that area where they were treated 77% of the time over 2 years, which is fantastic data. We're very excited about it. I'd also note that the treatment, because it has such low levels of radioactivity, really 2, 3, 4% of what a patient can tolerate. So we would also view this as a potential retreatment opportunity where a patient who had a tumor disappear and then it comes back again a few years later may be eligible to retreat in a way that other radiotherapies often don't offer that ability to do so very well because the patient has maxed out on the dose they can receive.
And last question for you from Gregory Houston. He wants to know, who is your U.S. IR person? Can you give their contact? Yeah, sure. I mean, we've got a couple people working in the States, but the best way to reach us is hopefully it's on the screen, ir@alphatau.com. So investor relations, IR, just 2 letters, IR@alpha, ALPHATAU.com. That'll get to all of us and we'll gladly respond. Okay, perfect. Raphi, thank you so much for joining us. And we look forward to you coming back with another update soon. Thank you. It's great to be here. Thanks so much, everybody. All right. Thank you. Okay, everyone, stay with us. We have another 10-minute update from GeoVX Labs. We'll be right back.